Hi everybody, good morning to you. I am freshly woken. Well, not freshly woken, I've been up for a few hours, and I've had probably too many cups of coffee. But it's probably because I just got a brand new mug, and with my friend Tammy. And we got it at the Puyallup Fair, and this is a very large mug. May not look like it, but it is a very long mug. It holds a lot of coffee, and I just makes you keep drinking. But enough of my rambling. Let's get to some questions, shall we? First question. 2 Notes Torpedo Live or Studio? What would be the biggest benefit in one over the other? Thank you. Now, before I answer this question, full disclosure, I am the global brand manager of 2 Notes Audio Engineering now, but I think I'm qualified to answer this because I use the 2 Notes stuff just as a musician for many years before I actually came to work for 2 Notes. So, full disclosure, just so everyone knows, this isn't favoritism. I genuinely like this stuff and use it almost daily. Now, the differences between the Torpedo Live and the Torpedo Studio. Torpedo Live is mono out, and you can load 1 cab at a time, whereas the Studio, you can load 2 cabs at a time, and you can have dual ins and dual outs, and all sorts of MIDI functionality, and lots and lots of bells and whistles compared to the Torpedo Live. However, if you're using something like your own impulse, there'd really be no advantage to using the Studio over the Live if you're going to use it for specifically to load your own custom impulse, because both do that equally as well, but the Torpedo Studio is almost $2,000, or is $2,000, which is double that of the Torpedo Live. However, for me personally, the Torpedo Studio has been a game changer for me in the studio environment. There was a lot of things that, there was a lot of amps, the crunchier amps, the Marshall-y kind of amps. I always kind of had a hard time having one single cab, you know, because I'm a huge fan of multiple miking and using multiple cabs for all sorts of different stuff. And having 1 cab and 1 microphone, I found it a little tough to get the tone I was after. As soon as I got the Torpedo Studio, it was just an instant game changer. A whole world opened up for me. Tone-wise, you know, you can blend, you know, use this cab for highs and use this cab for lows, get that nice mid-range punch. And yes, I mean, if you can afford it, I would definitely go to the Torpedo Studio, because you won't ever need anything else ever again as far as impulse loading, a load box, attenuation, or anything like that. But if not, Torpedo Live is still a fantastic way to go, and I used it for many, many years with lots of success. You had a chance to play the Malia Les Paul yet? If so, what do you think of it? Yes, if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, like you should be, I did try one when I was recently in Chicago visiting my buddy Rob Scallon at Chicago Music Exchange. I thought it was a pretty damn good guitar, actually. It didn't feel like other Epiphones, which I found interesting. It is a very, very light guitar. I talked to Lee about his guitars, and he said his are basically the same guitar, they're just a little heavier. And what they send him are just the heavy guitars that come off the production line. I would say it weighed, oh man, 7.5 pounds tops. It was a very, very light guitar, especially for a Les Paul. And it's not a hollow body, it's not chambered or anything like that. At least as far as I know. I asked him and he said it wasn't chambered or anything, but they're using really light hunks of wood for it. But it sounded and felt really, really good. And I compared it with, now I didn't have hours to sit down with it. I was at the Chicago Music Exchange, so I just sat down and kind of just played around with it a little bit. But acoustically, it was very loud. The hardware felt good. Tuners felt good. Really liked the profile of the neck. The fret ends were not sharp or anything like that. It was a great guitar, and I almost walked out with it. I almost bought it. But I figured, I don't need another guitar. I mean, really? I mean, I want another guitar. I want lots of guitars, because, you know, those guys need friends right here. And, yeah, maybe I should have bought it. I don't know. Greetings, Fluff. What is the absolute best guitar tone you have ever heard, and why? And what's the absolute worst tone you have ever heard, and why? Oh man, that's a tough one, but I'm gonna answer it anyway because I like the tough ones. Best guitar tone. There's been so many good ones over the years, but my go-to would have to be the Alice in Chains record, Dirt. Jerry Cantrell, my guy. I gotta give it up to him. That was one of the best recorded guitar tones I've ever heard in my entire life. That was achieved by using a Bogner Fish preamp and a Marshall that was modified by Bogner, and a very, very, very early Mesa Boogie 2 channel to rectifiers like Rev C. And he got one before they were actually out for Mesa Boogie. and blending all of those together with some Marshall cabinets and some Mesa Boogie cabinets and all sorts of stuff. It was this huge wall of amps that were all blended, and they could blend the tones and bring up the faders of certain stuff for certain parts and all that stuff. But that tone, for me, is one of the best ones I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it's just so thick and chunky, but detailed and harmonically rich. As far as worst guitar tone, now, the question was asked. I'm gonna answer it. Get ready to hate me. I don't care. It's true. I would say Randy Rhoads had one of the worst guitar tones I've ever heard in my entire life. We all love Randy Rhoads. Let's just get that out of the way. An amazing player. I'm not disputing that. But when you hear his guitar tone, I have to think that the entire crew were either deaf or super coked up or both, because that's one of the most atrocious guitar tones I've ever heard. Honorable mention for worst guitar tone is Vernon Reid from Living Colour. Holy crap. Terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Sorry, Randy Rhoads fans, but that's the truth. This stuff sounded awful. My suggestion to you this week is to check out this cool video of Sammy Hagar on the Opie and Anthony show, or Opie show, I guess, now that Anthony's gone, talking about the ups and downs of being in Van Halen. I thought it was pretty candid, pretty cool, and I just thought this was interesting and you guys would probably dig it. You have been wonderful. I have been Fluff. I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Check, 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 check. Check 1, 2. It's good enough, right?